to the surprise of world leaders. Taliban entered Kabul on the 15th of August, and the Afghan national forces collapsed or fled. There is a lot of irony in the situation. Yesterday's designated terrorists became partners in a dialogue for peace, and the parties in Doha bestowed a kind of legitimacy upon the Taliban. How much control the Taliban exercise or will exercise in future, not only in Kabul, but throughout Afghanistan, still remains to be seen. One thing is certain, however, that thousands of Afghans don't want to live under a Taliban regime, in spite of the assurances of moderation and the declaration of a general amnesty. We have seen the power of the media. We have seen their frantic efforts to flee on our television screens. It is said that more than 125,000 people have been evacuated from Afghanistan since the 15th of August. The United Nations estimates that 500,000 more will leave Afghanistan by the end of this year. The United Nations has also asked all Afghanistan's neighbors to keep their borders open to meet this crisis of exodus. The focus of this webinar today is Afghan refugees in Pakistan. Apprehending a crisis, Pakistan had made it clear that it would not give shelter to any more Afghans, and if they came at all, they would be restricted to camps along the border. Pakistan has fenced almost all its frontier with Afghanistan, 2,600 kilometers, more than 2,600 kilometers, and it has posted its army along the frontier. As we all know, Pakistan is not a signatory to the Refugee Convention of 1951 or to its subsequent protocol, but for humanitarian reasons, it has hosted millions of Afghan refugees for more than 40 years, some of whom are registered and documented while others are not. These refugees and their families have spread beyond the refugee camps, and they have impacted the economy and social life of Pakistan in various ways. International pressure and the very unusual dynamics of the situation have compelled Pakistan to facilitate the evacuation from Afghanistan of foreign diplomats, members of UN agencies, aid-giving bodies, and members of non-governmental organizations of some significance. They will transit through Pakistan for a few weeks before traveling to their ultimate destination. The government has identified many hotels in Rawalpindi and Peshawar to accommodate thousands of people. We still have to see how that will work out. According to press reports, 40,000 evacuees will transit through Pakistan to be accommodated in Islamabad, Peshawar, Lahore, and Karachi. But these figures and details are still unclear. But these are high-profile visitors, and the real clamor for entry will be at the border crossings in Torkham and Chaman. According to the Interior Minister, a couple of days ago, 27,000 people have already entered. On the other hand, the Guardian newspaper numbers these refugees in many thousands. We do not have any definite figures. To address these issues, we have three distinguished speakers: Ambassador Rustam Shah Mohmand and Ambassador Aziz and our analyst, Dr. Saba. Each speaker will have 20 minutes, and there will be a question and answer session at the end. The first speaker is Ambassador Rustam Shah Mohmand, one of the most senior Pakistani diplomats. He is a well-known expert on Afghanistan and Central Asian affairs. He served as Pakistan's ambassador to Afghanistan from 2002 to 2005 at a critical time in the history of Afghanistan, just after the 9/11 bombardments, and also held the position of Chief Commissioner for Afghan refugees in Islamabad for a decade. He has also consulted with the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees for many years. He will speak on Afghan refugees in Pakistan and analytical overview. Rustam Shah Saab, the floor is yours.
Unmute. Where history has been made and incredible developments have taken place. They have stunned the world, surprised even the Taliban themselves. The influx of the arrival of Afghan refugees in Pakistan also was an epoch-making event in the early 80s. The setting was provided by the political upheaval inside Afghanistan. Afghanistan, as you know, was a stable monarchy, and the monarchy was an institution that was widely respected. But in 1973, July, Sardar Daud abolished the monarchy and seized power, and he and Afghanistan had to pay a very heavy price. In 1978, the Saur Revolution took place, and the two pro-communist parties, Parcham and Khalq, took command of the country. That was unacceptable to many Afghans because it ran counter to their beliefs, and Afghans started to pour into Pakistan and Iran in the early 80s. And the Mujahideen, who created 6 or 7 or 8 groups, they began to fight back. In those days, when the refugees were coming into Pakistan, there was a widespread sentiment in the people to support them, to embrace them, to help them, because it was believed that these people have left their homes in order to protect their ideology and their Islam and their faith. So the people were ready to help them. Lands were provided free wherever they went. And the military ruler of Pakistan then thought that was an opportunity that he must seize to legitimize his government. And he did exactly that. And he became a darling of the West. So the Americans came in, the Europeans, the United Nations came in a big way, and we were there in the refugee commissariat to set up camps and to allow refugees to settle wherever they like. That was one of the fundamental policy decisions that we took, that because we will not be in a position to provide all help to the refugees. So the refugees may like to go wherever they wish to go, and we would also go after them along with the United Nations to render critical help in terms of tents, food aid, non-food aid, water supply, electricity, etc., etc. This was, I think, a defining moment in Pakistan's history, and one of the high watermarks of Pakistani nation extending help to people in need on the basis of mutual faith and in the larger interest of good neighborly relations. There was a spontaneity of showing affection, embracing them, giving them their lands free of any compensation or cost to begin with. There were no conflicts. There were no problems in settlement. This is amazing that people, hundreds of thousands of them, settling in frontier and Balochistan in such large numbers across the tribal area, across the settled area, without generating any hostility, any ill will, creating any problem. This was amazing. I think this is unprecedented in contemporary history. So there we were. With the help of the UNHCR, we set up schools, dispensaries, provided water supply schemes, dug tube wells, built roads for them, developed skill development centers for them to teach them skills, and the WFP providing wheat and other commodities in food aid. There was no problem. Food security was ensured, protection was ensured, water supply, education. Nobody would die of hunger. Nobody would die. Nobody would be denied basic education if they wanted to seek education. Primary schools, primary health centers were set up all over the camps in a very comprehensive, in a very systematic way. Other organizations, other NGOs also came in to support. They were all properly registered, and a commissariat was established both in Quetta and in Peshawar to look after their basic needs. And a regular repo was established with the refugee leaders, and camps were established from Chitral up to D.I. Khan and up to South Waziristan and across Balochistan in Dalbandin and other areas, all along the border and even deeper into the hinterland of the province. There was this mutual respect between the communities. I think that was the biggest positive. That was that came in a big way as a great help. The community, the local community, and Afghans coexisting peacefully and happily, creating no problem for the administration. And this went on and on and on. And then, of course, there were these phases of repatriation. Whenever the situation in Afghanistan would improve, people would begin to repatriate. And many of them have repatriated since their early settlement in the 80s in various phases. At the moment, of course, we have about 1.4 million registered Afghan refugees and a few, about 400,000 to 500,000 unregistered refugees. They are in Pakistan, but now the help that they used to receive has almost stopped. They are more or less on their own, but some help in the form of education and healthcare still being extended to them by the UN system and by the NGOs and by the Pakistani government. Now, in the wake of these developments in the last 3-4 weeks, there are reports that perhaps some more hundreds of thousands of refugees might cross over into Pakistan. I have this belief that this may not happen because the Afghan Taliban are facing no resistance whatsoever. So the danger of a civil war in Afghanistan at the moment doesn't exist. And after many years, there is a government in Afghanistan which is not going to fight against any other rival or opposition. Secondly, there is this fatigue syndrome. People in Afghanistan are fed up of conflict and they want peace, and any government that would deliver peace would be supported massively by the people in Afghanistan. And they have this belief that Taliban would deliver peace as they did in the areas they controlled from 1996 to 2001. So these are two pluses. Of course, The challenges are formidable, many challenges here. So in my belief, some refugees might still try to come in, primarily because they have their relatives here and because of the acute poverty now, which is not going to be resolved very easily to begin with. This year in particular, there has been a terrible drought in Afghanistan. So food production is down by almost 40%. There were 3.5 million IDPs in Afghanistan before this. After these developments, there are more than about 400,000 more internally displaced people. Then the pandemic also added to the woes and suffering and miseries of the people in Afghanistan. Of course, more than 50% of them live below the poverty line. Unemployment is up to about 60% in the country. Opium production has gone up to 7,000 tons. There are hundreds of thousands of drug addicts in Afghanistan. So the challenges the new government would confront are formidable, and it would require not only massive support from the community, but huge support from the international community, and they have to align themselves with the international community. And that is the reason that they are trying to create an inclusive government that would seek legitimacy and recognition from not only the regional countries but also the rest of the world, because they would depend on the manpower and technology and resources of the international community to help them overcome the gigantic, the huge challenges that Afghanistan is going to confront in the coming days, more so because the Americans have withheld the $9 billion that is in their banks, the Afghanistan's money, but they perhaps are not going to release it soon. And the World Bank also is not going to release the $500 million that they have tried to, the aid they have tried to extend to Afghanistan. They're not going to release that amount also in the near future. So that will compound the worries of the new government. Maybe that Russia and China are going to help, but I don't think that that help will be enough for them to overcome the financial problems in the immediate future. They would have to reach out to the international community in a big way. The Afghan refugees, if they decide to come here, I think in their tens of thousands, not in their hundreds of thousands, would still be accommodated in the border areas by setting up camps with the help of the UNHCR, the UN system. And I think only yesterday, the Security Council passed a resolution asking the regional countries to open their borders for those who are going to leave Afghanistan. So if Pakistan now closes its border, I think it will run counter to the call from the UN for opening the border. But other than that, I think it will be inhuman and unfair, and it will affect the goodwill that exists in Afghanistan for Pakistan. Whatever amount of goodwill is left for Pakistan would be eroded, because in this time of crisis, shutting the doors on Afghan refugees, this will be a step that the Afghans would never forget and forgive. So if we could look after 2 million refugees for such a long time, I think we can also look after another 100,000 or 50,000 refugees for a short period of time, because I am sure that as soon as opportunity arises and the work of reconstruction, rehabilitation begins, and opportunities are created, jobs are created in Afghanistan, many people would be willing to go back, because there is a deep yearning for return to their motherland as soon as conditions permit. And this was an event that was not anticipated. People in Afghanistan, inside Afghanistan and beyond Afghanistan, thought that the West, the Americans are there forever. They have taken over the country, and the Taliban with their ragtag soldiers and ill-equipped militias, they just can't confront the mightiest power on earth. with their huge resources and their awesome destructive power. So they thought that the international support would be forthcoming, and someone like Ashraf Ghani and Karzai, etc., they would manage Afghanistan on behalf of the international community to the extent that they can, and that is Afghanistan's destiny. They've been proved wrong, uh, and I think a new Afghanistan has emerged on the political landscape of this region. Uh, I think in this historic setting, considering the many odds, considering the hardships that Afghans face, considering the huge potential that lies ahead for Pakistan if Afghanistan were to become a stable and normal country, I think we should look at the long-term prospects and not lose sight of the long-term benefits of a continuing long-term engagement with Afghanistan. We have to have the Central Asian countries in mind. The Turkmenistan gas would come through Afghanistan. Tajikistan's electricity is going to come through Afghanistan. Pakistan is going to be a major beneficiary of the reconstruction and rehabilitation of the country. Pakistan can provide technology, resources, human resources, etc., etc. So I think the stakes for Pakistan are high, and let's not waste the goodwill that exists in Afghanistan for us by taking these short-term decisions of shutting our borders to the influx of more refugees. So these were the few observations that I wanted to place before you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Rustam Shah Mohmand, for this not only a historical perspective, but also an analysis of what you see for the future and what you suggest. Thank you very much for this analysis. The next speaker is Dr. Saba Khattak. Dr. Saba Khattak is a former member of the Planning Commission of Pakistan, and she is well known for having been the executive director of the Sustainable Development Policy Institute in Islamabad for many years. She specializes in comparative politics, and her research interests revolve around the political economy of development, feminist and political theory, gender issues, public policy, governance, militarization, and refugee politics. Dr. Saba Khattak has worked with Afghan refugee women. She will speak on the impact of Afghan refugees on the economy and social life in Pakistan. Dr. Saba.
Thank you, Dr. Masoom. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I need to thank Ambassador Rustam Shah for making my presentation very easy, because he sort of said most of the things I was going to say about refugees in Pakistan. I will just add a few more points. First of all, from our own Pakistan perspective, I just thought I'll point out that to this day, despite having hosted millions of refugees, 3.6 at its peak, we still do not have any legal framework or policy for refugees, a formal one. Informally, of course, we've been doing so on an ad hoc basis, but Pakistan has neither signed any refugee convention nor any protocol, and nor is there a very clear-cut refugee policy, though we do have SAFRON, the ministry that looks after refugees. Given this situation, refugees have been living in a very uncertain climate, which is not very predictable. And although they have been given, eventually they were given cards for registering themselves and so on, yet situation in which their lives have been, and the kind of situation in Afghanistan that has had a lot of, um, instability, that has experienced a lot of instability. Therefore, for refugees, it has been a constant going back and coming back over the last 40 years. In this context, of course, Pakistanis' attitudes have also been changing with shifts in governments in Afghanistan as well as within Pakistan, and how the international climate is. So, to look at humanitarian issues without looking at the larger regional politics is not going to be a helpful way of doing things. And I think we need to recognize that there is a larger regional and global politics attached to the entire situation, which makes it even more hard. And for attitudes, in order to be able to talk about their impact on our economy and social life in Pakistan, I just thought I would place it in that context and also highlight the fact that not all Afghan refugees are one and the same. There have been different waves of refugees in Pakistan. So, initially after the Soviet Union entered Pakistan, the people who fled to Pakistan were very different to the ones who came when Najibullah's regime was replaced. That was refugees who came mostly from Kabul and other cities. They were mostly educated, they were urban, they had a very different skill set with them. And similarly, there have been other refugees who have fled the country because of poverty, because of environmental degradation, and usually we call them environmental refugees. 9/11 and post 9/11, again, a very different wave of refugees, including from Tora Bora, where people, the US said there were no human communities, but I have interviewed tons of refugees who came from there and had suffered great losses. Um, so, in this context, I wanted to explain that refugees, although the word is one, but they are not all one and the same. They come with very different experiences, very different skill sets. So what has been their impact? In general, we have a negative attitude. We only speak about the negative impact of refugees upon, our social lives. The whole Kalashnikov culture, gun and drug culture is blamed on refugees as if we had never heard of these things before. Um, so, I feel that the things we criticize about, the racism, the xenophobia that we criticize in Europe and the US is also displayed many times by us as well. It's just that we are not very self-aware. So while we are quick, and this is something that most countries or people do when they see outsiders, they blame everything. And yes, there were certain pressures on on cities. For instance, in Quetta and Peshawar, when suddenly, a million refugees are introduced or a million people are introduced, obviously the services available become scarce, and so there are pressures on the health system, pressures on transportation, on the roads. The burden of disease increases, new strains of diseases are introduced, and those issues people have been grumbling about. But what we do not look at is the contribution of refugees, the skills they bring, the labor they bring, the businesses they bring into the country and into the economy. So there is a lot of generation of income, except that it is mostly in the informal sector, so it cannot be accounted for precisely. So we do not really have any studies that have looked at the impact of refugees, and many of the studies that have been undertaken are with such a small sample size that one cannot generalize. So that being the main challenge, I just thought that I will also point out that the construction industry in particular suffered when refugees went back, because a lot of the refugees were working in the construction industry, especially in KP and Balochistan. So also Afghan refugee labor was employed at much lower rates than was Pakistani labor. Of course, this created resentment among the Pakistani labor because they felt the refugees had stolen their work by working for much less. And it created resentment among the Afghans because they felt the moment the employer came to know that the person is an Afghan, they would negotiate his wages downwards. So this really didn't help either side. But the point is, overall, there was an injection into the economy, which is not recognized. But when refugees started to go back, the vacuum was felt deeply in the construction industry. Similarly, I think there were negative impacts on the environment because refugee camps needed to be made. And yes, there were pressures. But, at the same time, there were skill building massive projects. That one of them, I still remember, a $67 million project of the World Bank and UNHCR for skill building that provided women and men with work in nurseries to grow plants and so on. So there have also been reforestation initiatives and others to make up for this. Overall, I feel refugees have continued to bring in money. We have massive private hospitals where there are separate desks to deal with Afghan refugees. There are Western unions at these hospitals in Peshawar, in Islamabad, in Quetta, where Afghans could be seen bringing in dollars, paying in dollars at these hospitals. So definitely there has been also a contribution. And even though we talk about Sorab Goat in Karachi and the gun and drug culture, but I feel that that is a larger political issue of a whole war being financed by different countries through the opium trade, illicit, of course, and other kinds of trade. So it is not just Afghans who are responsible for this, is what I'm trying to say. Overall, I think Pakistan has been very, very generous in terms of its support for refugees. It has also, aside from receiving funding from different countries, Pakistan itself has also contributed significantly towards refugees, especially over the last 5 to 8 years when funding from different countries decreased drastically because Afghan refugees were seen to be a protracted situation in which it was felt that they should either be integrated in Pakistan or they need to go back. But Afghanistan itself was also having trouble reintegrating the refugees because their infrastructure was also not quite ready for the influx that was taking place a few years ago. So the only part where I feel Pakistan has not done so well is on the foreign policy part and generating goodwill. Because when we do not see an acknowledgement of all that Pakistan has done in terms of subsidizing refugees, in terms of accommodating them, and in terms of welcoming them, somehow that gets lost in the larger context of politics, and Pakistan does not get the recognition that it should. And I hope that both our ambassadors who are speakers, panelists today can address this issue of how we end up being the bad, Pakistan ends up being the bad boy on the block all the time. And how can we do something to actually put attention on the good deeds that we've also done?
कर दिया, वीडियो को भी अनम्यूट. Okay. My God, it's created. I have never had so much.
Saba, have you finished? Have you concluded, Saba?
I think Aziz Saab's intervention.
Saba, have you concluded?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Saba Gul Khattak, for hitting spot on the issues which we about the contribution or the impact of Afghan refugees on Pakistan's economy. And although you didn't say much about the impact on our social life, but maybe we can address that in the question and answer session. The next speaker is Ambassador Aziz Ahmad Khan. Can you hear me?
Ji, I can hear you loud and clear. Ji, I can hear you.
Ambassador Aziz Ahmad Khan was a career diplomat.
I can hear you.
I'm introducing you.
Can you hear me?
He was a career diplomat who served as Pakistan's High Commissioner in New Delhi for a number of years. He also served as Pakistan's ambassador to Kabul when the Taliban made their first government between 1996 and 2000. Between these postings, Aziz Ahmad Khan was the spokesperson. He was a brilliant spokesperson of the Foreign Office, and he was also additional Foreign Secretary. He has been engaged in track 2 dialogues with diplomats from India and Afghanistan, and he will speak about the future of Afghan refugees in Pakistan after the Taliban's takeover. Aziz Saab, the floor is yours. Can you get?
Thank you very much, Dr. Saba, and thank you for this, your very kind introduction. I think as far as I am concerned, we have come full circle, having interacted with the Taliban during their first incarnation. Now I can sit back and watch them in their second incarnation and see how things develop and how things are going to be. But as far as the question of refugees is concerned, and the future of the refugees, I personally feel, and I would concur with what Rustam Shah said, that this time one doesn't expect that kind of an influx of refugees. We have to compare the two circumstances, and again, Rustam Shah explained it very well in his intervention. What were the circumstances that led to that massive exodus of people from Afghanistan to Pakistan, and the way we welcomed them, and the way they were established and settled all over Pakistan. And the people have very, very warm feelings towards them. I think over this period of time, although the people are not hostile towards the refugees, but at the same time, there is a feeling that it is about time that these refugees went back to Afghanistan. They have lived in Pakistan, they have been welcome, and they are being welcome even today. But the problem is that such a large number of people, when they are in your country, they are, and particularly since they are not receiving much of financial assistance, they compete for jobs. They have all entered, whether they are registered or unregistered, they have all entered the labor market. And Pakistan being a labor surplus country and having its own problems of unemployment, I think these refugees compete with them, and those who are working in the construction industry or as laborers particularly, they compete for jobs and they are available for lesser wages than the Pakistani laborers are. So that in a way creates a certain degree of hardship and excuse me, and a certain degree of hardship for the local people as well. Now, there are two aspects. First is the influx of new refugees, and the second is what to do with the refugees that are already present. As far as the influx of new refugees is concerned, I concur with Rustam Shah that this time around, we don't expect that kind of an influx of refugees. Maybe a few thousand might wish to come over because of certain circumstances, but otherwise the massive exodus will not take place, and unless a civil war breaks out. For the moment, the kind of statements that the Taliban have issued, the way Taliban have behaved, the way they have interacted with the international community, with the media, with the Afghan people, it appears that this is a changed lot, and they have become more sophisticated and more urbane and more realistic in their dealings with the world. They have the very fact that they have constantly been reassuring the Afghans that they should not worry about anything, that everything will be normal. The way they have, I mean, for example, in their first avatar, there was no question of cameras being allowed or photographs being taken. Today, the TV cameras are roaming around, the TV station channels in Afghanistan are open, even their own leaders are giving interviews on the TV channels. This was something unheard of at that particular time. Number two, they have reassured the Afghan population that the women can work, that the people can return to their jobs. They would like all Afghans to stay behind and not emigrate, because they need all those people who have certain expertise, who work as bureaucrats and as technocrats, etc. And that I'm sure the Taliban would make sure and would like very much that these people don't leave. Some may, because of their past background or because of certain fears they have, particularly those who think that they had worked for the Americans or for foreigners as support staff or as technicians or as translators, etc. A lot of them have left. Some more may wish to go. So apart from that, so far things as they appear things are settled and things are going to move in a rational, disciplined kind of a manner. Of course, the difficulties would arise if the financial help does not come from the developed countries. Saba has explained all that very well, and the monies that have been frozen should be released. Assistance need to be given so that jobs can be created. Jobs can be created for all those Afghans who have been working with the previous government and who should continue to should return to their work quickly, so that they don't suffer any privations, because it's the economic hardships which would oblige the people to move out. Nobody wants to leave their own country. Nobody leaves their own niche in society. And so we have to make sure, and the international community, particularly the developed countries, have to make sure that they continue their interaction with the Taliban in order so that things settle quickly, and at the same time that the people feel reassured. Taliban would need the economic assistance because Afghanistan, under the best of circumstances, cannot generate enough revenues to even run the government's day-to-day business. It has always been dependent on foreign assistance, and particularly now, they would be needing it even more. They should, the international community also should increase their interaction with the Taliban, so that whatever kind of moderate policies we wish them to adopt, that kind of interaction would encourage them. Even, once again, I'll go back to the previous time, and even at a particular time in their first tenure, Taliban were very anxious to interact with the international community. And they had been talking about accommodating their concerns. Even with the Americans, when the government of Pakistan facilitated a delegation, a very high-level delegation of Americans to visit Kabul and they interacted with the head of the government and some of other important Taliban leaders in Kabul, they were very satisfied with the assurances that the Taliban were given. But because of political reason and mostly American internal political reason, there was no further follow-up on that. So even in those days when Taliban were considered very harsh, there was a certain wish on their part to interact with the world. This time around, we have seen they have made very categoric statements that they would like to interact with the world, so the world should interact with them. Of course, all of us, regional countries, as well as the larger international community, wish that Taliban live up to all the assurances they have given. We have to wait, perhaps in a day or two, they would be announcing what the kind of broad-based government that they have been, or inclusive government that they have been looking for. Let's see who all joins that government. It is incumbent on the important Taliban, Afghan leaders like former President Karzai, Dr. Abdullah, and several other leaders of Hizb Wahda and so on. They all have to interact with the Taliban and offer to join the government, not create the kind of a difficult situation which, like Abdullah Saleh is trying to create, hold up in Panjshir Valley. He is not going to achieve much. Panjshir is not such a vast territory or such a large population that would make any difference to the Taliban. But this kind of a starting of a resistance will just add misery to a small group of people who are living in Panjshir Valley and not create much of a problem for the Taliban. Yes, if the Taliban don't live up to their promises, and if they think live up to what they have promised, there might be trouble. But once again, I repeat myself saying that I perhaps feel optimistic, and I feel that they are going to be more accommodative and a little more sensible as far as the governing is concerned. So that would make sure that there is not a large exodus of Afghans from Afghanistan. As far as the presence of the refugees are concerned, of course, first of all, we have to record how many refugees there are. Rustam Shah talked about almost 2 million. Some of our leaders talk about 3 to 4 million. I do not know exactly. I mean, that becomes a little confusing. That what is the exact number? Number two, we need to interact with the international community and with the Afghan government, Taliban government, that circumstances should be created where jobs are created, which is an inducement for these refugees to go back to Afghanistan. They would want to go back to Afghanistan, but at the same time, it would not be that easy for them. Until such time that circumstances are created where these refugees can be sent back to Pakistan, we need to be a little patient with them. I personally feel that we should, for example, the government has already been talking about that, register them and issue them a 1-year residence card, renewable after 1 year, so that they can still live in dignity. Those undocumented Afghans who are already here should be documented, and we should be generous with them. Now that we have been generous with so many Afghans for such a long time, for a short further period of a year or two or so, we should issue residence cards for them, so that they can, instead of they hiding like illegal people, can live in dignity. At the same time, the proposals that have been discussed about creating border markets, creating infrastructure along the border, where joint venture kind of a situation, CPEC can projects can play a very important role in creating such kind of economic opportunities. CPEC can be extended to Afghanistan. China had already shown a lot of interest in Afghanistan in economic projects. They had already promised $3.2 billion for the Anak copper mines. Or they are also interested in the large deposits of lithium that Afghanistan is supposed to have. These kinds of projects will generate so much employment that all these Afghans who are here will also be very happy to return to Afghanistan. So there is need that we generate such an economic activity. Russia can come in with their projects. Other countries can join in. The SCO, which is a very important organization, can also do some projects. Afghanistan had already shown interest in the membership of SCO. SCO can undertake some projects, specifically Afghan-specific projects, so that employment is generated and things settle down. Because a settled Afghanistan, a safe and secure Afghanistan, a violence-free Afghanistan is in the interest of all the countries of the region, not only those who share borders with Afghanistan, but the broader region as well. But till such time that these refugees who are living in Afghanistan, in Pakistan, cannot return, they should all be documented, and we should tell them and reassure them that they don't have to fear anything. They can live for a year and then come back for renewal, depending on the circumstances, renewal of their residence permits. Pakistan is a haven to illegal immigrants. Karachi is full of illegal Bangladeshis and Biharis and Rohingyas and so on and so forth. They also should be documented. I mean, it looks a little odd that a country can host so many undocumented people. When you cannot control the influx of people, at least take measures whereby you can monitor them and you can document them. So we have, in conclusion, I would just say that I don't expect a large influx of refugees from Afghanistan, and I feel that things will not get out of hand, and that the international community, now that America has spent $1 trillion in destroying Afghanistan, they should spend some money in order to rebuild Afghanistan. And the same holds true for the European Union countries and so on. We hope that all these measures will create the circumstances in which the Afghan refugees living here would have the inducement to go back. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Aziz. Thank you very much indeed for a very optimistic presentation. And so far as documenting Afghan refugees is concerned, I think it would be a very, very difficult process, because they have settled far and wide in Pakistan, mainly in the frontier and Balochistan, as Rustam Shah said, but also in Karachi. They have really merged into the population. So I don't know how easy it would be to register them or to document them. We have a number of questions for our speakers. There are two questions for Ambassador Rustam Shah Mohmand. The first question is by Ali Zamin Turk. And he says that Pakistan is already facing many social and economic issues. And in these circumstances, why should Pakistan welcome refugees? He'd say Afghan refugees, but I suppose he means Afghan refugees. Why should Pakistan welcome refugees?
Yes, indeed, Pakistan is facing many problems, challenges. But we are talking of a country that has been wrecked by war and conflict for 40 years. A country that we have such a long border with, a country that we share ethnicity with, a country that we share history with, and a country where we need to create and build goodwill for our own country. So I think with these things in mind, if there are some refugees who still want to come in, knowing that the atmosphere, the climate is no longer conducive and favorable, and people are not going to welcome them like they did in 1980s, In spite of that, if they are prepared to come and settle along with their relatives for a short period of time, I think it will be unfair to deny them entry into Pakistan, particularly when we are talking about just confining them to the border. And we are also calling upon the international community to help. So I think from that humanitarian angle, it will be unfair to deny them entry into Pakistan for a short period of time.
The other question is also for Ambassador Rustam Shah Mohmand by Hamna Kamal. She says, with Pakistan being constantly blamed by the former Afghan government, specifically Mr. Ghani's government, and by the US for what went wrong in Afghanistan, do you really think there is goodwill present among the people of Pakistan for the Afghans? She thinks that there is not as much goodwill as you think there is. Because, you know, it is said very often by people here, why don't they just go back?
Is it for me?
Yes.
Yes, they are not going back because conditions are not conducive for their return. The infrastructure has been destroyed. In many cases, the schools and dispensaries, etc., don't exist. There are no jobs. Poverty is acute, alarming. In many cases, there are no facilities like electricity. Gas, of course, is not there. And they have lived in this country for 30 years, in some cases for 40 years, more than 20 years in many cases. So in these circumstances, I think even under the international law, you just cannot force anyone to return to his country if he genuinely faces the risk to his life or to his health and safety and security. The international law would forbid that. I think Pakistan has to consider that dimension also to push them back into Afghanistan against their will be unfair. It will never be forgotten. And you keep somebody for 10 years and you kick them out, I think the last kick would be remembered for a long time to come. But the hospitality that you extended would be forgotten. So why destroy whatever little respective goodwill there is for Pakistan and Afghanistan? Why, with our own hands, with our own doing, I think we should be very, very careful. We have borne the brunt of this, and like Saba Khattak before me said, the refugees have been making a contribution. She mentioned the construction industry. In addition, the refugees have been making a great contribution in the farming sector, in the transportation sector, in the catering. Many thousands of them went abroad. They have been sending remittances for many years to Pakistan. So this has not been a one-way traffic, although our lands have come under pressure, our ecology has come under pressure. Of course, there have been pollution because of that, etc., etc. But there have been the positive dimensions of their settlement also. So I think we should incorporate all these in our calculations before we formulate a vision or policy on whether we accept more refugees or we don't.
There is a question from Dr. Tanveer Khalid to any of the panelists. Maybe Saba Khattak can answer it. She says that the economic impact of the control of Afghan refugees on transport, smuggled goods, and labor is very high, very strongly felt by the Pakistani citizens. How can amends be made for that? Saba Sanu? Saba? Please unmute. Saba
Yes.
Khattak.
Yeah, I was trying to unmute. Sorry, it was taking me a while. I think I'm sorry I missed the long list, the transport, smuggled goods, and what else was there? I'm sorry.
Cheap labor.
Cheap labor, yeah. So the cheap labor is a contribution. So I don't know why that is being made out to be a negative. It has contributed to the economy, and Rustam Shah Saab just enumerated. Actually, I'd written these notes. I forgot to. The transport sector is definitely a contribution. It is a contribution into the economy. They bring in their own capital. We are not providing them any capital. Our banks are not lending them any money. I mean, those are the kinds of issues that refugees face. So they bring in their own money. They are bringing in their own skills in the farming sector, definitely orchards and so on. The reason why I had said refugees come with different skill sets. They were teachers, they were students. In fact, this time, if we do get refugees and accept them instead of keeping them at the borders, Pakistan, I think, lost out on a lot of skill sets by refusing, the equivalence of degrees. And because of that, many doctors, engineers, architects, nurses, so on, were not allowed to work, as legitimate professionals in Pakistan. And this time we should not do that. We should ensure that their degrees and so on are recognized. So I'm sorry, even the smuggled goods, Pakistanis love them. I don't know why that is being seen as a negative. I think the Karkhano market in Peshawar is very famous and everyone loves to go there, or the Bada markets in about every city. Yes, maybe that is overall an impact in terms of missed out customs and taxes. But actually, there are a lot of goods smuggled in from India via Dubai, and there is an impact, I agree. But at the same time, I think we need to, that's on the government of Pakistan rather than the refugees.
Well,
I'll
if but Saba, the point is that so far as labor is
May I
concerned,
just add a word?
yes, sir. Yes. Body Ambassador, sir.
Ji. Yeah,
Ambassador.
first of all, just to add on to what Dr. Saba Khattak has said, you see, this problem of smuggling, that is not done by refugees. It is done by the Afghan businessmen along with in collusion with Pakistani businessmen in the name of transit trade, and that is how the smuggling takes place. In fact, all those negative things that have been pointed out that have happened because of Afghan refugees, but poor refugees have nothing to do with that. The transport business is owned by rich Afghans. It's a business investment. A lot of Afghans have bought property here. That's good for us. That is an investment in Pakistan. But it's not refugees. So let's not confuse the two. Refugees are not contributing to that. The only competition refugees are providing is in the form of cheap labor that is available. But then again, it adds to the economy. They contribute. A lot of Afghan carpets are now being manufactured in Pakistan by the Afghan labor that is present here, and then exported out from Pakistan. And Pakistani carpet makers are taking a benefit of that. So the Afghan refugees, these points cannot be blamed onto the Afghan refugees. Thank you.
No, that is a very spirited defense
Thank you.
of the stand. But I think what she meant really is that if they can provide cheap labor, then they are really sidelining the labor which would be available in Pakistan by Pakistanis. There is another question.
Yeah,
from
that's correct.
He is one of our researchers. He says, how can the government of Pakistan respond to the influx of refugees in a humane manner while also mitigating the possibility of the arrival of Al-Qaeda and ISIS terrorists among the refugees? This is a question that has bothered many of us. How, in the garb of refugees, how can we prevent terrorists from coming in? Rustam Shah Saab,
Who
would
should
you like
answer
to?
it?
Yes. Well, I think some elements, some members of the TTP or remnants of the Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda doesn't really exist in Afghanistan anymore, but there may be remnants, some individuals connected with Al-Qaeda who may be hiding uh, in some corners of Afghanistan. They are smart enough to enter Pakistan as Afghan refugees, even if there is a complete restriction and ban on the influx of new refugees. But these 5, 10, 20, 100, 200 people can find their way. This is a very long border, and to keep it guarded all the time, day and night, is difficult. So if they want to come, I think there are many other ways. But to shut the doors on rank and file refugees, I think that would be unfair, as I said in the beginning. But in the meantime, it is for the government departments and agencies to come into action, to spring into action, and to monitor the border very carefully, uh, and also to establish contacts gradually with the administration that the Afghan Taliban would set up in the border area to coordinate their activities, to share intelligence in order to prevent the inflow, the coming in of those people who can create problems, strike targets here in Pakistan. That will be a problem for some time, for a year, 2 years, maybe 3 years. But I think this border was open, unmanned border. Everybody could cross in for 60, 65 years and nothing happened. But when the situation changed in Afghanistan and the government of Pakistan took a certain policy decision in 2001 by aligning itself with the American objectives and goals, then of course things began to happen. I think we had to pay a very dear price for that policy in 2001. But if normalcy were to be restored to Afghanistan, and Afghanistan were to return to a stable, to a position of stability, and I think then there'll be no room for these people. So I think we have to wait and see. We have to show patience, and at the same time, we have to look alert to to eliminate the possibility of these people coming into Pakistan in the garb of Afghan refugees. But even now, with the border having been fenced completely and nobody being allowed to come other than on the few selected border crossing, even now incidents are happening in Balochistan. There are many other organizations within Balochistan which are anti-government or anti-government policies, and they're carrying out these attacks. So I think we have to be very careful. We have to monitor the border very closely now, but at the same time, we must ensure that the genuinely needy refugees who wish to come, who want to come, they're desperate to come for one reason or the other, are not denied entry for a short period of time.
Dr. Masuma, can I just say one thing?
Yes, certainly. Yes.
Thank you. I'll be very blunt. I think it's a fair question that, and I still remember after 9/11, General Musharraf also had said that we will close our borders because terrorists will come enter Pakistan. But then under pressure, Pakistan had opened its borders. The thing is, I think as a researcher, I can say it very bluntly that the whole policy of strategic depth needs to be re-examined. It is not that people are crossing only from one side, there is also crossings from here, our side. I have been interviewing refugee women since the 90s, and even in the late 90s, refugee women would turn around, and at that time I was surprised and shocked. They would ask me, if the Taliban are Afghan, why do they speak Punjabi? That sentiment there may not be a lot of Punjabi speaking Taliban, but that sentiment holds a lot of, coinage across the border. So I think it's a two-way street, and depends on how you define who's a terrorist. Because the Taliban, the US started off with trying to destroy Al Qaeda and the Taliban, and today they have a peace deal with the Taliban. So all of this changes according to the politics that is being played out on the regional front, the international and global fronts. And I think we need to look at this as a two-way street and then be able to understand the politics. Thank you.
There are many, many questions, so I will have to pick and choose. There is a question to Ambassador Aziz Khan. What are your thoughts and views about Mullah Baradar, since he will be probably leading Afghanistan's new regime? Aziz sir.
I don't know personally. I personally do not know Mullah Brother, and my own, whatever I have seen published in the media and so on, we should realize that Mullah Brother is one of the founding members of the Taliban group. He has a very high and respected place. He probably will become the head of administration or head of government in Afghanistan. But that we have to wait and see. All I can say is that all these people who, they are responsible people. Mullah Brother has, as you know, was arrested and was in jail in Pakistan for a long time. And then he was released only not too long ago. He will be wielding a lot of influence. His statement so far, or whatever we have heard about him so far, gives reason for hope. So I think for us, we need to, at the moment, take the Taliban at face value. Not go by what the Western propaganda is saying. Go by what the Taliban are saying and make sure that they live up to what they are saying. And that would be possible only when we interact with them, treat them as a responsible group, and treat them and make them responsible to live up to their promises. And I'm sure they will. Now, another, I will just digress here from Allah brother, and Saba mentioned about the Punjabi Taliban, Afghan saying Punjabi Taliban. Now, that is the reality. There were about 5,000 to 6,000 Punjabi-speaking enthusiasts from Pakistan who had joined the Taliban movement, and they were called the Punjabi Taliban. So that was not a fiction. It was not that some Afghans had learned Punjabi and they were called Punjabi Taliban. Those were Pakistani nationals who had joined the Taliban movement. There was a lot of enthusiasm for Taliban in Pakistan at that particular time. I remember that I received a letter from an old woman in Murray, and she said that my son has disappeared and I'm told that he has gone and joined the Taliban. He was the only bread earner. Can I have him back? Because otherwise I'll starve. And we requested the Taliban, and they traced him out, and we had him repatriated back to Pakistan and told him that please look after your family. That is more important to jihad than joining the Taliban. So there is, Punjabi Taliban were there.
There's a question for Dr. Saba, and
I'm done.
Very little time left. We have observed a sense of hostility towards Pakistan among Afghan students studying in public universities in Pakistan, often on our scholarships. What is the reason for this animosity towards a country and countrymen who are hosting them?
This is like going back in history, a long history, and that's where I said that this is one of our failures, that despite having hosted so many refugees, in a manner that we could afford. I mean, the refugee camps were not sort of luxury apartments or anything. They were squalid places where no one would have wanted to live. So it wasn't like a life of luxury that we gave the Afghan refugees, but it was whatever could be done. Yes, there are a lot of, there is, like I said, by the way, Aziz Sab, I didn't mean that the Taliban who were speaking Punjabi were Afghans. This is what the refugee women were saying, that they are not. That they are from Pakistan, obviously. Those are the kinds of issues that that have been creating a lot of resentment in Afghanistan, because many of the Afghans felt that the instability in Afghanistan, just like we have felt our security situation has been affected by what has been going on in Afghanistan, they have felt that Pakistan has kept Afghanistan destabilized. And I mean, there are many reasons for that. Some may be more of propaganda, some are real. And I think we need to understand the Afghanistan situation to be more empathetic towards it, and to sort of go towards a more peaceful future rather than dwell on the resentments. I mean, Afghans, I see a lot of students who are Afghans who are contributing, whether they are teaching children karate in Kohat or Hazara or some other place, and they're amazing, or other kinds of, in other contexts, but they do partially blame Pakistan for what has been happening in Afghanistan. And so the resentment shows among the students.
There is a question for Ambassador Rustam Shah Mohmand, and then I will wind up with some of my own, maybe not such favorable observations. The question for you, Ambassador Mohmand, is about the Durand Line. What do you see in the future for the Durand Line, considering that the Taliban have never recognized it? Ambassador Shah?
Shah is not there, I think. Rustam Shah may have left. Should I answer that question?
Please, Aziz Saab, you answer it.
Durand Line is an international border, legally reconfirmed by the Afghan, three Afghan governments since the time the border was demarcated. It is only Afghans who do not accept it, and they will probably never accept it, but we should not even worry about that. The Durand Line is there. It's an international border between Afghanistan and Pakistan, and it is there to stay. Now, if any Afghan, and this will include Taliban also, they're also not going to accept the Durand. No Afghan will say that the Durand Line is an accepted international border, but we should ignore that. The rest of an entire international community accepts the Durand Line as an international border, and we should not worry ourselves about that at all. We should not even raise the subject. We should just take it as done. And if any Afghan raises it, sometimes just ignore it.
Well, I'm going to wrap up this session now. It's been a great learning experience for me. I've learned a lot from all the three distinguished speakers. And I'd like to say that what has actually happened in Afghanistan lately, which has been a source of surprise to many people, will really be understood in the long run when all the documents in these various countries which were involved in the Afghan experiment, you can call it, are declassified, and that might take many, many years from now. Personally, I find it a little difficult to understand how somebody like Abdullah, for instance, or Hamid Karzai, or people representing them, can sit in an inclusive government which is going to be based on the Sharia. I find that compromises will have to be made so that there should be that inclusive government, but there should also be a government based on Sharia, which the Afghan leaders, the Taliban leaders, have emphasized again and again in all the interviews which they have given to the international media. Rustam Shah Saab said that there is no likelihood of a civil war in Afghanistan, and I hope that there won't be a civil war. But apparently there is some disconnect between what the leaders say and how the fighters or the commanders on the ground interpret it. Otherwise, there would not be so many instances of, you may say it's Western propaganda, but so many instances of violence and so many women coming on the television and saying that they've been asked to stay home, etc. So far as the impact of the Afghans on our national life is concerned, yes, they have made a contribution, no doubt. But also they have brought with them their very conservative values. And that conservatism has been shown, has been displayed in the ways in which they have lived, in which they have upheld those values. And we are a country which is trying to desperately, at least some sections of our country, is trying desperately to modernize and to reach some kind of synthesis between modern and traditional values. And I will end with a reference to Saddam Hussein. Why will I do that? I will do that precisely because of the surprise of the world at what has happened in Afghanistan lately. When Saddam Hussein was being interrogated by the CIA after he was arrested in Afghanistan, he told the person who was interrogating him, the CIA analyst, he told him, "You will never succeed in Iraq because you know nothing about Iraq and you do not understand the Arab mind." And in fact, the person who was interrogating him said, and it is a book that he has written called Interrogating the President. James Nixie, I think is his name. He said that I realized then that everything that we had assumed that we knew about Iraq was wrong. We did not really know anything. And so I think that may also be true, that the Americans and their allies really simply failed to understand what was really happening on the ground in Afghanistan. I want to thank everybody who joined this webinar. And for these questions, we couldn't do justice to all of them. And I want to thank especially the three distinguished speakers, Ambassador Rustam Shah Mohmand, Ambassador Aziz Ahmad Khan, and Dr. Saba Khattak. Thank you for making this a success. And do remember that we will invite you again. Khuda Hafiz, and have a very good day.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Khuda
Aziz.
Hafiz. Khuda Hafiz.
Khuda Hafiz, Saba.
Thank you, Ji. Khuda Hafiz. It was lovely.
Thank you.